these self-improvement gurus have been hiding something from you because they're scared of how it's going to make them look to say this publicly. The reality is, if you really want to live a life that's better than all of these guys that you see around you, you have to have the courage and be willing to cut them off. To cut off all of these friends that have shitty lives, these friends who are bringing you down, these friends who are telling you that self-improvement is cringy. It just sounds like banter, right? But it's not just banter, because spending your time around these guys, internalizing the messages that they're putting out, is literally conditioning you to be worse at self-improvement, less dedicated to self-improvement. I want to do a visualization exercise with you. Close your eyes and just follow along. Visualize your ideal self, that version of you who you're working towards every single day, that version of you who tackles life in the exact way that you wish you could, that version of you who lives the exact kind of life that you're aspiring to, that version of you who is the product of all of these efforts you're putting in now. Visualize your ideal self, that version of you who is the product of all of this effort that you're putting in now, all of these habits that you're implementing, all of this information you're consuming, that version of you who is living your ideal life, that version of you who's got his dream income, his dream wife, his dream life setup, that version of you who's got his 10 out of 10 physique, who has unparalleled confidence. Visualize what an incredible person you've become, how fulfilling your relationships are, how successful your business is, how beautiful your physique is. Imagine how happy you are. You finally conquered all of these challenges that you've been working at for so long, that you've been working so hard at, going through so much anxiety and pressure to overcome. You finally got in there. You're so proud of yourself, you're so fulfilled, and you're finally content. Now, I want you to imagine or consider the fact that you're never going to get there. You're never going to get even fucking close, because you're too unwilling to actually take the steps that are required to set yourself up for success. You're not willing to cut off those friends who are conditioning you to be worse at self-improvement, because you're afraid of confrontation. You don't want to seem like a prick. You're afraid of being lonely for a few weeks. And while these reservations are understandable, they're not enough. I can completely understand these feelings. I feel them all every single day. But you have to be honest with yourself about the fact that if you can't overcome these fears, if you can't do the actions that you know you should be doing despite these fears, you're not going to get where you want to be. You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time around. And I know what you're thinking. This is some kind of bullshit platitude that people pull out when they want to feel intelligent, when they want to sound like they've got something important to say. And to some degree, I would definitely agree with you. But also consider the fact that if this saying weren't completely true and incredibly important and increasingly prevalent in the modern world, you wouldn't keep hearing it being repeated by random people, by all these different people all over the world. They wouldn't be saying the same thing if that thing weren't severely important and simultaneously severely overlooked by people like you and I. Your identity is, to a significant degree, the product of the identities of the people you spend the most time around. And what this means is, if you're spending your time around 5 people who have identities of people lower than you, i.e. people who believe that their place in life is at a place lower than your current place in life, then their identities will rub off onto your identity, and as a result, you'll feel like where you currently are is maybe not just where you deserve to be, but maybe even higher than where you deserve to be. And so it'll make it so much harder for you to make some real growth. I can vouch for this truth from personal experience. There's this guy at my school who quite openly talks to me about how many drugs he does, how often he does drugs, how often he goes out smoking weed, drinking with his friends, etc. And when I talk to him, I can feel something inside me shift. I can feel this kind of switch in my mind flip, and I suddenly become a lot more willing to do drugs. Usually I have quite a high resistance to that, but I find that when I spend time around him, when I imagine being in that kind of scenario where I'd accept or reject it, I find myself a lot more willing to accept it. This might sound small and insignificant and maybe not grounded in reality, but I genuinely really believe that this has a real impact on the actions that you take. When I first started talking to my friend who's also on self-improvement, he was talking to me about how he was setting up this online business, this personal brand online. He was designing ClickFunnels and a landing page and whatever. And just having that conversation with him, it didn't teach me anything new. But suddenly becoming friends with someone who was in this kind of space was enough to push me over the edge. That was enough for me to start researching business, trying it out, and eventually led to me starting this YouTube channel. If I'd never met him, if I wasn't spending time around him every week now, this YouTube channel wouldn't be a thing. Equally, when I started spending a lot of my time around this group of guys who were all on self-improvement, I found that we were all more disciplined and more motivated and more hardworking than we ever were before. And since we've stopped talking so much about self-improvement, we've all become less disciplined, less motivated. We've all started coming up with more excuses as to why we're not doing the things that we've been told we should be doing. So I hope by this point I've kind of convinced you of the importance of being very selective with your friends. There is a nuance to this that I should definitely go over, and that is when you decide to start being more selective with your friends. There is a nuance to this that I should definitely cover, and that is when you make that decision to start being more selective about who you let into your life, there will be a period of loneliness. There will be that period where you feel a bit uncertain about whether you're going to be able to find that kind of friend group where you have the same kind of interests. You might struggle to relate to a lot of the people around you, and that's completely natural. When you start being more selective about the people that you're letting into your life, you'll notice that you sort of just start making a lot more progress than you were before in those areas that your friends are involved in. For example, if you surround yourself with a group of friends on self-improvement, you'll notice that you're more disciplined, you're more motivated, you're doing more research on business and optimizing your diet. If you surround yourself with a group of people who are very hardworking at school, then you'll find yourself working harder at school, holding yourself to a higher standard as to how disciplined you should be in your schoolwork. You'll start making a lot more progress, having a lot more motivation. You'll be more optimistic about the future, and it's a wonderful experience. Don't take my word for it. Do not just take my word for it and say, oh yeah, I bet he's right. Don't take my word on this. Try it for yourself and see these results in your own life. That's what I really want to happen from you watching this video. So, I'm hoping by this point I've convinced you on the importance of being selective about the people in your life. So what is a very simple system that you can follow to transition these people out of your life to make way for higher quality, more like-minded people to come into your life? This actionable step will seem inhumane in some way, but I just want you to recognize the fact that you're the only person who'll be able to see what you're writing. So, on a sheet of paper, write down the 5 people who you spend the most time around, excluding family, because you can't cut off family, but the 5 friends who you spend the most time around. And for them and yourself, rate all of you, all 6 of you, out of 10 for the quality of your mental state, the quality of their mental state, the trajectory of their life, and the current quality of their life. So for mental state, say they complain a lot, they're always unhappy, they have this kind of victim mindset, then you'd rate them quite lowly. For the trajectory of their life, if you genuinely believe they'll end up at a fulfilling, high-paying job and they'll meet an amazing woman and have a really fulfilling relationship, then rate them highly. For the quality of their life, if they have a lot of bad habits, if they do a lot of things that are kind of fucking with their brain, if they're not at all where they want to be in life, then rate them lowly. Lowly? Rate them lower. Now, average out the scores. So across the 3 areas, give each person, including yourself, an average score out of 10. Now just look at the scores you've given yourself and look at the score that you've given all of these other people in your life. If the people you're surrounding yourself with have a lower score than you, then that literally just means that by spending time around these people, you're lowering your own score. Conversely, if those people have a higher score than you, great, keep them around you because those people are bringing up your score. If those people have a lower score than you, you have to kick them out of your life. You don't have to be a prick about it. You don't have to be abrupt. You don't even have to really talk to them about it. You can be very gradual. Maybe a man of character would be a lot more direct. He would sit them down and tell them what it is he's decided to do, but I understand that most of us aren't that courageous. So how can you transition them out of your life? Well, just start taking longer and longer to respond. Stop accepting their party invites so often. Stop responding so warmly to the things they're saying to you in person. Just overall make it less enjoyable for them to spend time around you and less rewarding for them to put in the effort to contact you and to try to set things up. Over time, they'll transition out of your lives and you will reach this stage in your life where you're actually quite lonely and you'll think you've made some big mistake. You'll want to go back on what you've done. You'll want to just go back to the way things were. But if you just stick with it, if you just stick with this decision you made, if you commit to yourself, even if it's at the expense of these other people's relationship to you, then eventually some higher quality, really amazing people will start to enter your life. The kind of people whose scores are 2-3 points higher than you, who just spending time around them actually makes you a better person. Those kind of people who bring out the very best in you. And there you will see the results, the positive results of taking this action. Now, I can completely understand how appealing it would be for you to pretend that you didn't see this video, for you to pretend that I didn't give you that advice, or that I don't know what I'm talking about, and that you're the average of the 5 people you spend time around thing is just a platitude and there's no real important message in it. And you know what? I couldn't blame you for doing so. When I first received this information, I was so resistant to it. I thought, oh, but I'm going to piss people off. Oh, but I don't want to be mean. Oh, but we have good times together. And while that was all true, it wasn't helping me. What's going to happen is your life won't crash and burn. You won't be miserable. Your self-improvement won't be undone. It's just, you'll never quite get where you want to be because your identity is holding you back, because your friends' identities are holding your identity back. So your friends are holding you back. It's horrible. I wish it didn't have to be this way, but realistically, if you want badly enough to get where you're going to get, you're going to have to cut these people off sooner or later and surround yourself with people that actually help you towards your goals rather than trying to hold you back. That's my rant over. If you found this video challenging, brutally honest, if you found it was a refreshing, kind of a refreshment of perspective from the wholesome things all these other guys are telling you, then please subscribe. I post a free video like this every single day for people just like you. Thank you for watching.